This is Tony T here from Tony'sPicks.com with our college football pick show. This is week 10, part 2 of 13 games here. We'll have nearly half of them for Saturday when we're done with this video. For more free pick videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Lots of free picks on our channel delivered by myself as well as the team of cappers here at Tony'sPicks.com, making this a great channel to subscribe to. Hit us up with that like, that thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Then visit our site, Tony'sPicks.com. We're a multi-capper site showcasing top performers in our industry. Click the links to the hot cappers, get signed up to long-term passes. Top performers like Sean Higgs, DeAndre, Brian doing great. You see them on our leaderboards. You know these guys from our live show as well as our YouTube videos. Alessandro's been hot. Justin hitting the leaderboards as well. Big Dave there. Javon as well. Latest pictures to the page with best bets and more. We will be locked and loaded for this card here on Wednesday. Remember, all of our one-day passes are profit guaranteed. They must turn a profit amount purchased is credit back to your account for site credits. That's profit guarantee. And then our promo code TonyT at checkout knocks off that 15%. The link is in the description to get signed up. So let's go ahead. Let's get this one underway. Got Rutgers and Illinois for Saturday. Rutgers now 4-4 after their 27-24 road win at Purdue. The Scarlet Knights had a huge passing performance and rushed for 184 yards for 3.8 yards a carry. Offensively, they limited the Boilermakers on the ground and allowed 217 yards rushing for 7.8 yards per pass attempt. Nathan Kalamaknis here, 19-27 passes for 359 yards with a touchdown. Illinois 5-3 with their 42-25 road defeat to Washington. The final Illini rushed for 138 yards for 4.8 yards a carry. Had movement in the passing game. They allowed 449 yards to the Huskies with poor work against the pass and run. Luke Altmaier here, 22 of 34 passing for 199 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. He rushed for 48 yards. It is back-to-back road games for the Scarlet Knights. They have a 19-point road defeat at Washington. Their defense has been poor on the road, allowing 5.6 yards per rush, 285 yards passing for 9.4 yards per pass attempt. Illinois had home defense well and got good quarterback play. They are 4-2 the spread as home favorite. Pick here Illinois minus 12.5. Arizona State and Iowa State going off here on Saturday. All right, we got Arizona State dropping to 5-2 after a 24-16 home defeat to Houston. The Sun Devils moved the football through the air and rushed for 98 yards for 4.7 yards per attempt. Defensively, they struggled against the pass and allowed 183 yards rushing for 3.8 yards a carry. Sam Levitt, 18 of 35 passing for 270 yards and a touchdown. Iowa State fell to 5-3. A 41-27 home defeat to BYU. The Cyclones gained 495 yards with success rushing and passing. On defense, they allowed 3.7 yards a carry to the Cougars with 307 yards passing for 8.5 yards per pass attempt. Rocco Beck, 24 of 36 passing for 311 yards with a touchdown and 3 picks. 3 straight losses for the Cyclones. Levitt is healthy, so the Sun Devils were skewed when he was out. Cyclones in conference is struggling with accuracy at quarterback. On defense, they allow Big 12 teams 4.7 yards per rush, 7.9 yards per pass attempt. ASU 8-4 the spread on the road against the conference. Pick here Arizona State plus 5.5. East Carolina and Temple. This one for Saturday. We've got East Carolina 4-3 after a 41-27 home victory against Tulsa. The Pirates gained 568 yards with strong running and throwing the football. They allowed 3.5 yards per rush to the Golden Hurricane with 251 passing yards for 6.1 yards per pass attempt. Caden Hauser in the game, 21 of 38 passing for 300 yards with 2 touchdowns. Temple now 5-3 after a 38-37 road victory at Tulsa. The Owls gained 180 yards for 5.3 yards per rush and were effective in the passing game. They allowed 3.2 yards per run with 296 yards passing for 9.5 yards per pass attempt. Evan Simon in the game, 24 of 35 passing for 267 yards with 5 touchdowns. Temple has a 1-point home loss to Navy. ECU was competitive at Tulane with a 7-point loss. ECU here on the road is getting great quarterback play. Temple rushing for passing the ball well at home. Pirates are allowing 284 yards passing with 7.7 yards per pass attempt. That's on the road. ECU 3-1 to the over on the road against the winning teams. The Owls 8-4 to the over as home underdog. Pick here East Carolina and Temple over 58.5. Louisville and Virginia Tech going off here on Saturday. Louisville now 6-1 after their 38-24 home victory against Boston College. The Cardinals had movement in the passing game and rushed for 317 yards for 10.2 yards per rush. Defensively, they limited the BC pass attack and allowed 116 yards rushing for 3.2 yards per carry. Miller Moss here, 15-27 passing for 187 yards with a touchdown and pick. He had 2 rushing scores. Virginia Tech 3-5 after a 42-34 home overtime victory against Cal. The Hokies were inefficient in the passing game with 357 yards rushing, though, for 6.2 yards a carry. They held the Golden Bears to 39 yards rushing with 286 yards passing for 7.2 yards per pass attempt. Tyrone Drones, 9 of 18 passing for 119 yards with 3 touchdowns and a pick. He rushed for 137 yards and 2 scores. Louisville on the road has 1 possession wins at Miami and Pittsburgh. Louisville in those games struggled on the ground and averaged 6.7 yards per pass attempt. They allowed 265 yards passing for 7.9 yards per pass attempt. Virginia Tech is rushing for 5 yards a carry, and Drones likes to run. They have held opposing quarterbacks at 63% completion rate, and that's at home. The Hokies have been good at home on third down. Louisville 2-9 of the spread as a road favorite. Virginia Tech 7-3 of the spread at home against the ACC. The pick here, Virginia Tech plus 10.5. New Mexico and UNLV going off on Saturday. Mexico now 5-3 after a 33-14 home victory against Utah State. The Lobos were effective in the passing game and rushed for 224 yards for 5.3 yards a carry. Jack Lane here 17-22 passes for 183 yards with a touchdown. UNLV drops to 6-1 after a 56-31 road defeat at Boise State. The Rebels gained 476 yards and effective in the rushing as well as passing the football. On defense, they allowed 548 yards to the Broncos with poor work against the run and pass. Anthony Calandria, 18 of 30 passing for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns, also threw a pick. He rushed for 87 yards and a score. Mexico has dropped both road games in conference where they rushed for only 2.5 yards a carry and defended the pass poorly. On the road in the Mountain West, they allow 77% completion rate for 285 yards and 9.2 yards per pass attempt. UNLV at home rushed for 5.7 yards a carry and got great quarterback play. Defensively, they allowed 33 points per game on the road by allowing 461 yards with 6 yards per pass attempt. The Lobos 12-5 of the over on the road. The Rebels 7-4 of the over at home. Pick here, New Mexico and UNLV over 61.5. Old Dominion and UL Monroe for Saturday. Old Dominion now 5-3 after a 24-21 home victory against App State. The Monarchs had a great passing game and rushed for 149 yards for 3.3 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 4.1 yards a carry with 301 yards passing for 5.6 yards per pass attempt. Colton Joseph in the game, 21 of 33 passing for 305 yards with 3 touchdowns and a pick. He rushed for 62 yards in the game. UL Monroe now 3-5 after a 49-21 road defeat at Southern Miss. The Warhawks had a poor passing performance and rushed for 209 yards for 5.2 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 5.2 yards per rush with 248 yards passing for 10.8 yards per pass attempt. Third string Island Graves forced into action due to injuries, hit 12 of 26 for 103 yards with a touchdown and 2 picks. UL Monroe has lost and failed to cover 4 straight. That's by 15 points or greater. ODU offense away from home rushed for 5.6 yards a carry with 9.1 yards per pass attempt. UL Monroe in conference getting poor quarterback play and giving up 31 points per game. ODU 5-2 the spread on the road, facing a team that allows 5.9 yards per play or greater. UL Monroe 1-4 the spread at home, facing teams that average 5.9 yards per play or greater. Pick here, Old Dominion minus 17. Notre Dame and Boston College for Saturday. We've got here Notre Dame now 5-2 with their 34-24 home victory against USC 2 weeks ago. Pine Irish were limited through the air but rushed for 306 yards for 7 yards per carry. On defense, they limited the Trojans to 68 rushing yards with 328 yards passing for 7.8 yards per pass attempt. Grayson James here 23 of 46 passing for 244 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. Boston College 1-7 after their 38-24 road defeat at Louisville. They were inefficient in the passing game and rushed for 116 yards for 3.2 yards a carry. Defensively, they allowed 317 yards rushed for 10.2 yards per carry and 6 yards allowed per pass attempt. Grayson James here 23 of 46 passes for 244 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. Notre Dame on the road rushed for 4.6 yards a carry with 326 yards passing for 10.5 yards per pass attempt. They have defended well away from home. BC defense in the past month allowing 41 points per game with 5.7 yards per pass attempt and 290 yards passing for 8.5 yards per pass attempt. They are getting outscored by 25 points in this period. Find Irish 12-3 to the spread as a road favorite. Pick here Notre Dame minus 28.5. Indiana and Maryland for Saturday. Indiana 8-0 after a 56-6 home victory against UCLA. The Hoosiers gained 475 yards and were effective in the run and pass. They limited the Bruins to 3.5 yards per carry and 118 yards passing for 4 yards per carry. Francisco Mendoza 15-22 passing for 168 yards with 3 touchdowns and a pick. He rushed for 45 yards and a score. Maryland fell to 4-3 after a 20-17 road defeat at UCLA 2 weeks ago. The Terrapins were inefficient in the passing game and rushed for 127 yards for 4.9 yards a carry. On defense, they limited the Bruins by the air and allowed 193 yards rushing for 5.5 yards a carry. Malik Washington in the game, 23 of 48 passes for 210 yards with a touchdown and pick. He rushed for 67 yards. Maryland 1-3 against the Big Ten. In those games, they struggled on the ground and with quarterback play. On defense in conference, they allowed 248 yards passing per game with 7.1 yards per pass attempt. Indiana has a 10-point road win at Oregon. Indiana against a conference averaging 41 points per game with great quarterback play and 72% completion rate for 7.4 yards per pass attempt. They have defended well against the Big Ten. Hoosiers 3-1 to the spread as road favorite. Pick here Indiana minus 21.5. Fresno St and Boise St, this one for Saturday. Fresno State fell to 5-3 after a 23-0 home defeat to San Diego State. The Bulldogs were held to 2 yards per rush with ineffective quarterback play. On defense, they contained the Aztecs' passing game with 208 yards rushing for 4.5 yards a carry. Carson Conklin in the game, 20 of 42 passes for 182 yards and 2 interceptions. Boise State now 6-2 after a 24-3 road win at Nevada. The Broncos rushed for 134 yards with 2.7 yards per carry and had movement in the passing game. On defense, they limited the Wolfpack passing game and allowed 101 yards rushing for 4.2 yards a carry. Max Madsen in the game, 15 of 28 passing for 174 yards with a pick. Broncos have pounded teams at home. They rushed for 5 yards a carry and with 260 yards passing for 7.9 yards per pass attempt. Defend the pass well at home. Fresno State has failed to cover both conference games on the road. Offensively on the road, they're running for just under 3 yards a carry and give up 35 points a game. The Bulldogs have failed to cover 4 straight. Boise State has not missed a spread coverage since their opening loss. Pick here Boise State minus 17.5. Louisiana and South Alabama going off here on Saturday. All right, we got South Alabama, the home team. Louisiana 2-6 after a 35-23 road defeat at Troy. The Raging Cajuns had movement in the passing game, but here just rushed for 184 yards for 4.4 yards a carry. Defensively, they allowed 4.2 yards per rush with 180 yards passing for 7.5 yards per pass attempt. Lunch Winfield in the game, 12 of 22 passing for 187 yards with a touchdown and 2 picks. He rushed for 139 yards in the game. South Alabama now 2-6 with their 38-31 road win at Georgia State. The Jaguars were effective through the air and rushed for 108 yards for 4 yards per carry. They allowed 199 yards rushing to the Panthers for 5.5 yards per carry, along with 7.3 yards per pass attempt. Bishop Davenport in the game, 16 of 22 passes for 280 yards with 2 touchdowns. South Alabama has lost every home game against FBS opponents. Louisiana has lost all 4 road games. The Jaguars against the conference allowing 5.2 yards per run, and Louisiana against the Sun Belt rushing for 4.3 yards a carry and averaging 7.2 yards per pass attempt. Raging Cajuns 6-3 to the spread as a road underdog. South Alabama 5-9 to the spread as home favorite. Pick here Louisiana +4. Delaware and Liberty for Saturday. Delaware now 4-3 after a 31-28 home victory against Middle Tennessee State. The Blue Hens, moved the football through the air and rushed for 79 yards for 2.2 yards a carry. Defensively, they allowed 4.7 yards per rush to the Blue Raiders, with 281 yards passing for 5.6 yards per pass attempt. Nick Minasucci, 27-42 passing for 276 yards with 4 touchdowns. Liberty now 3-4 after a 30-27 home victory against New Mexico State. The Flames were limited through the air and rushed for 114 yards for 3.8 yards a carry. Defensively, they allowed 146 yards of rushing, about 4 yards a carry with 6.5 yards per pass attempt. Ethan Vasco, 20 of 30 passing for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. Delaware getting good quarterback play on the road and on defense, holding opposing quarterbacks at 6.7 yards per pass attempt. Liberty's gotten poor quarterback play at home and surrendered 5.2 yards per rush. The Flames 7-9 the spread as home favorite. Pick here Delaware plus 3.5. Michigan State and Minnesota, this one for Saturday. Michigan State fell to 3-5 after a 31-20 home defeat to Michigan. Spartans were limited through the air and rushed for 115 yards for 3 yards a carry. They held the Wolverines at 86 passing yards, but 276 yards rushing for 5.6 yards a carry. Aiden Childs, 14-28 passing for 130 yards. Minnesota sits at 5-3 after a 41-3 home road defeat in Iowa. The Golden Gophers rushed for 24 yards and had a poor passing game. On defense, they allowed 3.7 yards per rush to the Hawkeyes with 141 yards passing for 7 yards per pass attempt. Drake Lindsey in the game, 16-28 passing for 109 yards and 3 interceptions. Minnesota has won all 3 Big Ten games at home. Michigan State has lost all 3 road games by 11 or greater points. Michigan State rushing here for 2.9 yards to carry on the road, and on defense getting up 40 points a game with 5 yards per rush and 9.7 yards per pass attempt. Golden Gophers have defended well at home, allowing 3.2 yards per rush and 5.6 yards per pass attempt, and getting pretty good quarterback play. Golden Gophers 7-4 to the spread as home favorite. Pick here in Minnesota -3. New Mexico State and Western Kentucky. This one going off here on Saturday. New Mexico State fell to 3-4 after a 24-17 home defeat to Missouri State. The Aggies had some movement in the passing game and rushed for 82 yards for 3.3 yards per carry. They held the Bears to 3.9 yards a rush and 282 yards passing for 6.4 yards per pass attempt. Logan 5 here, 22 of 34 passes for 207 yards with a touchdown and 4 picks. Western Kentucky here 6-2 after their 28-27 road victory at Louisiana Tech. Hilltoppers had movement in the passing game and rushed for 113 yards for 3 yards a carry. They held the Bulldogs to 2.9 yards per rush on the ground, but 340 yards passing for 7.4 yards per pass attempt. Starter Maverick McIver is doubtful with a shoulder injury. Rodney Tisdale went 21-34 for 227 yards with a touchdown and pick. He also rushed for 73 yards. No redshirt freshman quarterback expected to start for Western Kentucky. New Mexico State on the road rushing for only 2.3 yards a carry. Had issues with quarterback accuracy. Their pass defense has been bad on the road. WKU has defended the pass well at home. Big shoes to fill for Tisdale as the Hilltoppers averaged 310 yards passing with 7.6 yards per pass attempt. Western Kentucky, WKU, has struggled in run defense. Their quarterback situation is concerned. New Mexico State 3-1 to the under on the road, facing a team with a 600-750 win percentage. WKU 9-5 the under as a home favorite. Pick here will be New Mexico State and Western Kentucky to go under 53. For more free pick videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Lots of free picks on our channel from myself and our team of cappers here at Tony'sPicks.com, making it a great channel to subscribe to. Hit us up with that like, that thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Then visit our site, Tony'sPicks.com, for our best bets. Our premium plays are there, and our promo code TonyT at checkout will knock off that 15%. The link is in the description to get signed up. That will do it for now. I'm Tony T, and we'll talk with you guys later.